Rebirth without a self, the Buddha's most misunderstood teaching. Let me start with something honest. Rebirth is probably the most difficult teaching in Buddhism. Even people who've practiced for years sometimes ask themselves, is this actually real? Or did the Buddha just inherit this idea from his culture? If you come from a modern scientific background, this teaching can feel like mythology. Hell realms, hungry ghosts, animals being reborn as humans. It's hard to connect with our everyday lives. But if we simply dismiss rebirth as superstition, we might miss one of Buddhism's most important insights. At its core, this teaching challenges everything we think we know about life and who we are. And here's the paradox. Buddhism teaches rebirth. Something continues after death. One life leads to another. But Buddhism also teaches there is no self, no eternal soul, no permanent me that goes on forever. Think about that for a moment. The Buddha taught both things at the same time. There is rebirth, but no self. How can both be true? If there's no me, who gets reborn? If there's no soul, what continues? This isn't just a logic problem. It's a paradox that points to something deeper about existence than our normal thinking can grasp. Before we go further, we need to clear up one important confusion. Many people think rebirth and reincarnation mean the same thing. They're often used that way, but in Buddhism, they represent completely different ideas. Reincarnation, as taught in Hinduism, says there's an eternal soul, the Atman, that moves from one body to another, like someone moving from house to house. The house changes, but the essential you stays the same. Buddhist rebirth, or Punabhava in Pali, meaning renewed becoming, is different. There's no soul or permanent thing that transfers. Instead, a process of cause and effect continues. One life creates conditions for another life to arise, but nothing permanent passes from one to the other. It's causation without a traveler. This is the key difference. An eternal self versus an ongoing process of change. This distinction matters because it shows us exactly what makes Buddhist rebirth so challenging. How can there be continuity without identity? That's what we're here to explore. Not to convince you of anything, but to understand what the Buddha actually taught, and why this unusual teaching might contain deep insights about existence. This isn't a lecture. It's an invitation to explore one of Buddhism's most fascinating and challenging ideas. Let's sit with this paradox. Let it work on you. See what happens when we stop needing immediate answers. Let's explore how Buddhism talks about rebirth without a self, and what this might mean for how we live right here, right now. So how does rebirth happen without a self? This is the key question. The Buddha's answer starts with a simple question. What do you actually mean when you say me? Most of us feel there's a permanent, unchanging me inside. The same person we've been since childhood. We look at old photos and think, that's me. We remember past experiences and think, that happened to me. There's a feeling of continuity. But is this actually true? Let's look closer. The Buddha taught that what we call me is just a temporary combination of 5 changing parts, the 5 aggregates: your body, form, your feelings, your perceptions, your mental formations, thoughts, emotions, intentions, habits, and your consciousness, moment-to-moment awareness. None of these is permanent. Your body constantly changes. Cells die and are replaced. Feelings come and go. Thoughts arise and fade. Even consciousness shifts from moment to moment. So where is the permanent you? When you look at your direct experience, you don't find a thing. You find a process. Not a noun, but a verb. You're not a fixed self. You're a selfing that's happening. A continuous stream of changing conditions, each moment arising from the previous one, nothing staying the same. This is where the Buddha's insight becomes radical. If there's no permanent self even in this lifetime, then what's reborn isn't a someone. It's a pattern, a momentum, a stream of causation. Here's an analogy that helps. Imagine you light candle B using the flame from candle A. Is the flame on candle B the same as the flame on candle A? Well, it can't be the same. Candle A is still burning, but it can't be completely different either. Candle B wouldn't be lit without candle A. There's a clear connection between them, but they're not identical. No flame jumped from one candle to the other. Instead, heat and energy transferred, creating conditions for a new flame to arise. This is Buddhist rebirth. No soul or entity moves from one life to another. A causal process continues. One life creates conditions for another life to arise. They're causally connected, but not identical, like the two flames. As the monk Bhikkhu Bodhi puts it, rebirth is not the transmigration of an entity. Rather, it is the arising of a new mind-body process conditioned by the causal influence of a preceding mind-body process that has reached cessation. What's reborn isn't a person or a soul. It's the causal stream, the momentum of karma, the patterns of craving and ignorance that haven't yet been understood and released. So how does this work, moment to moment and life to life? In this life, because of ignorance, our lack of clear seeing, we create karma through intentional actions. These actions, whether wholesome or unwholesome, fuel craving, the deep desire to become something, to have something, to keep existing. This craving leads to clinging, upadana, in Pali, which binds us to the cycle. When death comes, that craving doesn't just disappear. The karmic momentum, the unfinished patterns, the deep habits, all of this creates an energy that seeks new existence. Conditions here create conditions there, just like actions today create consequences tomorrow. The causal stream continues. A new consciousness arises, causally connected to what came before. It comes with a new body, a new personality, new circumstances, all conditioned by previous karma. The cycle continues until ignorance is seen through, craving is released, and liberation is realized. This is what's called dependent origination, paticca samuppada. Everything arises depending on conditions. Conditions give rise to conditions in an endless web of causation. There's no independent, autonomous self anywhere in this process. What continues isn't a thing at all. It's energy, karmic energy, a stream of momentum, patterns, and unfinished business seeking resolution. This is how rebirth happens without a self. The paradox is resolved not through logic, but through a shift in how we understand existence itself. Not as things, but as processes. Not as beings, but as becomings. Not as nouns, but as verbs. Now you might be wondering, is this really what the Buddha taught, or is it a later interpretation? This is a fair question, and it deserves a clear answer from the sources. The night of the Buddha's awakening is important here. Under the Bodhi tree, he gained 3 profound insights. Memory of past lives. He recalled countless previous lives with complete clarity. the divine eye. He saw beings dying and being reborn according to their karma. Wholesome karma leading to pleasant rebirths, harmful karma leading to suffering states. He saw the entire mechanism of karmic cause and effect. Understanding of the Four Noble Truths. He removed all mental defilements and achieved liberation from rebirth itself. Rebirth is central to all three insights. It was the very problem the Buddha was trying to solve. As the monk 𝐂𝐚𝐧𝐬𝐞 Bhikkhu writes, rebirth has always been a central teaching in the Buddhist tradition. It's what motivated the Buddha's search for liberation in the first place. Liberation from the cycle of death and rebirth. This becomes even clearer when we look at why he left his first teachers. He mastered their advanced meditation practices, but he left them because their methods only led to rebirth in higher, more pleasant realms, not liberation from rebirth altogether. For the Buddha, escaping rebirth entirely was the ultimate goal. Not everyone in the Buddha's time believed in rebirth. There were many different philosophical schools. Some, like the Hindu teachers, believed in an eternal soul. Others, the materialists, taught annihilationism, that death is the absolute end, nothing continues. The Buddha rejected both views as extremes: eternalism, a permanent soul, and annihilationism, nothing continues at all. The Buddha taught a middle way. Rebirth happens, but there's no eternal soul. This unique insight, continuity without identity, causation without a permanent entity, is what sets Buddhism apart. Now let's talk about the realms, hell realms, hungry ghost realms, heaven realms, which often make modern people uncomfortable. Buddhism has a nuanced way of understanding these through what's called the Two Truths doctrine. On the conventional level of truth, the realms exist as actual places where beings are reborn based on their karma. Heavy negative karma can lead to rebirth in a hell realm. Ethical living and wisdom can lead to heaven realms. This is how the teaching has been understood throughout Buddhist history in traditional societies. But there's also the ultimate level of truth, where the realms are also understood as psychological states we experience right here, right now. When your mind is consumed by rage and hatred, when you can't find any peace, isn't that a kind of hell you're living in? When you're never satisfied, always craving more, feeling empty no matter what you have, isn't that like being a hungry ghost? When you're caught up in pleasure, intoxicated by temporary happiness, forgetting that it won't last, isn't that like living in a heaven realm, unaware that you'll eventually fall? Both levels are true and important. As the teacher 𝐂𝐴𝐽 Trungpa Rinpoche explains, in the Buddhist system of 6 realms, these realms can refer to psychological states or aspects of Buddhist cosmology. Both understandings are correct and complement each other. This shows how your current psychological experience and habitual patterns create karma that shapes your future. The realms are both out there and right here, future possibilities and present realities. This gives us practical insight. We create our world moment by moment through the quality of our mind. Rebirth isn't just about what happens after death. It's a teaching about how to live now. The question becomes, what world am I creating with my mind today? Here's where everything we've explored comes together into something practical for your life today. Karma and rebirth aren't mainly about what happens after you die. They're about how you live right now. They're about responsibility, power, and recognizing that you're creating your reality moment by moment. Karma isn't a cosmic system of rewards and punishments. It's not an external force judging you. It's simply cause and effect applied to intentional action. When you act, speak, or think with intention, you're planting seeds. You're creating conditions. You're shaping the stream of causation that is your life. You're not a victim of fate. You're the author of your life, creating your experience through your choices, actions, and attitudes. Even if you believe this is your only life, this teaching is powerful. Your actions today create tomorrow's consequences. Your choices shape your future. The habits you build create the world you'll live in. You can't control your past, but your future, from this moment forward, is in your hands. That's both your responsibility and your power. But the Buddhist teaching goes deeper than this. You don't need to die to experience rebirth. It's happening right now, in every moment. Your mind is dying and being reborn based on what came before. Every morning is a rebirth. Every choice is a rebirth. When you choose mindfulness, compassion, and understanding, you're reborn into a better state right now. As Thich Nhat Hanh teaches, nirvana can be touched right in this very life, in this very body. Liberation can happen now if you respond with wisdom. Let me make this concrete. You're facing a difficult moment. You're stuck in traffic. Someone says something hurtful. You get bad news. You're at a crossroads. One road leads to suffering. You choose anger, resentment, judgment, and you're reborn into the hell of an angry mind. Or you can choose differently. Pause, breathe, recognize what's happening without feeding it. Respond with wisdom instead of habit. That's rebirth into a freer, more peaceful mind. Each time you make a wiser choice, you change the causal stream. You weaken old patterns and strengthen new ones. You create different karma, shaping your future, and if rebirth after death is real, shaping the next life too. You're changing your trajectory. You're breaking the cycle. You're moving toward liberation. This is why the Buddha taught that karma is ultimately about freedom. Every moment of mindfulness, compassion, and clear seeing is movement toward liberation, the path out of suffering. This teaching isn't meant to be a passive belief. It's something to live, to practice, to test in your own experience. Whether rebirth after death is real or not, this much is undeniable. The way you live creates your world. Your choices shape your experience. Your patterns become your reality. You're being reborn moment by moment. The only question is, what are you being reborn into? So, we come to the question that might have been on your mind. Do I actually have to believe in rebirth to be a Buddhist? Can I practice the Dharma if I'm unsure? The Buddha himself addressed this directly in the Kalama Sutta. The Kalamas, a people confused by many wandering teachers with contradictory teachings, asked the Buddha, "Who should we believe?" His answer was remarkable. The Buddha told them not to believe something just because of tradition, hearsay, scriptures, logical reasoning, or even because a respected teacher said it. He invited them to test everything in their own experience. The Buddha said, "When you know for yourselves that these things are wholesome, blameless, praised by the wise, and when practiced, they lead to welfare and happiness, then you should accept them and live by them." In other words, test it, see for yourself. Does this teaching reduce suffering? Does it increase compassion? Does it lead to wisdom and peace? If yes, practice it. If no, set it aside. Then, addressing the question of rebirth and karma directly, the Buddha gave what's called the Four Solaces, also from the Kalama Sutta. Suppose there is no afterlife, no ripening of the results of good and bad actions. Even so, In this very life I live happily, free from hostility and ill will. He continued with 4 reflections. If there is an afterlife and karma does ripen, then I will fare well after death. If there is no afterlife and karma does not ripen, still I have lived happily in this present life, free from hatred. If evil comes to one who does evil, and I intend no evil to anyone, how can suffering touch me? If evil does not come to one who does evil, then I see myself purified in either case. The Buddha's message, living ethically, mindfully, and compassionately, is always the right choice, regardless of whether rebirth is real. It's a pragmatic approach. It meets you where you are. Traditional Buddhism recognizes different positions on rebirth. The monk Bhikkhu Bodhi outlines 3: faith or confidence, accepting the teaching based on trust in the Buddha, the experience of teachers, or your own intuition. This is valid if it motivates practice and compassion, not dogmatism. Agnosticism, honestly admitting, I don't know. You can't confirm it personally, and you're not willing to believe on authority alone. This is valid too, as long as it doesn't lead to thinking nothing matters. Outright rejection, actively denying rebirth, certain that consciousness ends at death. In traditional Buddhism, this is not considered a valid position. It aligns with annihilationism, one of the 2 extremes the Buddha warned against, and can lead to the view that actions don't truly matter. But here's what truly matters: not what you believe about rebirth, but how you live. If belief leads to dogmatism, it's unhelpful. If skepticism leads to thinking nothing matters, it's unhelpful. But if your relationship with this teaching, whether it's faith, agnosticism, or thoughtful doubt, leads you to live responsibly, compassionately, and mindfully, then that's genuine practice. The most important question isn't, is rebirth real? The question is, how will I live right now, in this moment, with this precious life? The Buddha was like a physician. He showed how to heal suffering. Like a doctor prescribing medicine, he offers a path, a practice, a way of living that reduces suffering and increases wisdom and compassion. So here's what I suggest. Don't worry too much about believing in rebirth. Instead, live as if your actions matter. Live as if every choice shapes your future. Live as if you're reborn in every moment with the power to choose differently. Live as if compassion, mindfulness, and the quality of your mind matter most. Try it for one day. See what happens. As the Buddha taught, come and see for yourself. 𝐿, not blind belief, not automatic rejection, but an invitation to discover truth through your own experience.